Okay, we're back and we're talking about the four types of organizational change: tuning, reorientation, adaptation, and recreation, right? So we'll put some detail around those. And we see that the first one, the kind of one we might think of the most, is anticipatory change, where we see something coming, so we do some fine tuning, right? It's incremental, right? We have to have some internal alignment for some outside need. So we're going to focus on things like components, subsystems, small changes, right? This mostly affects middle managers and the people that work for them. So move a few people around from different departments, change some department responsibilities, those type things. And implementation is going to be the hardest part. It's going to be kind of obvious what needs to be done, but just getting people used to the new way of working, the new alignments, all that is kind of the argument, kind of the issue here. Versus if it's reactive and we're going to use these smaller incremental changes, right? Then it's an outside environmental thing. We still have this need for internal alignment. We're still going to have middle management, and implementation still going to be the major deal, right? It's just a matter it's a matter of timing, really. How much priority does it have? How fast do we have to jump to for this new issue, right? If it's discontinuous or a radical change, if we see it coming, right, then we're going to have proactive changes based on the predicted major changes in the environment. So we not only have to see it, that it's coming, we have to believe that this change is coming, and then we have to believe that major change on our part is necessary, and then we have to believe it's worthwhile making this change. There's a lot of believing going on, and so this one's less obvious, right? That we're going to make these changes ahead of time. So there's this need is for positioning the whole organization in this new reality. So this is a big thing. It has to come from the very top, and the whole organization has to realign itself with what it's trying to do. So senior management has to create a sense of urgency and motivate the change, and we'll talk more about that later in here. This sense of urgency is a very important deal. And if it's a reactive change, the same thing happens too. With the same kind of environment going on. We just have to figure out the timing of this thing, and we're going down to figure out the reevaluate the whole organization, including its core values. So this might shake us to our boots here, and we really have to put some serious time in figuring out what's going on, how we're going to get there, and making these changes happen in a very time-effective manner. Difficulties with organizational change. We're going to study this in more detail, but organizational changes are difficult to make happen. It's often they're unsuccessful, often being more than half the time. And some of the causes for those, and we'll talk later about what you can do for those. Managers simply don't do their analytic homework, right? They don't see what needs to be done. They don't check their facts and so forth. Sometimes the managers are action-oriented, so they assume others will too. So managers are all excited about coming in, or even owners, making an organization improve and doing all the right things, and they just don't get that why everybody else isn't all excited about this new thing, because they're excited about this new thing. And it could be difference in morale or motivation. It could be difference in information. The manager gets information the other people don't, so they don't see how important this is. Often managers will under or overestimate their own power and influence on others around them. That's certainly common. Sometimes managers see transition periods as a cost, not an investment. So I see this as a problem. Therefore, I'm going to minimize it, as opposed to it's an investment. So I should not be trying to go cheap on this thing. I should be spending good money on this change to make sure it's successful, as opposed to spending less money but increasing the risk. And often executives underestimate the resources and commitment. They overestimate their influence, and they think they can just order it to happen by royal decree, as I like to say. And it doesn't really happen that way. And so they don't give it enough care and feed and fertilizer and water and all those things to make this thing grow, and therefore it just fizzles. And that's certainly a common result of organizational changes that are unsuccessful. Some of those other items are managers are just unaware of their actions, so they might be sending conflicting messages like, yeah, let's get through this thing so we can get back to our real jobs or whatever. Sometimes managers find dealing with humans unsettling, or people are complaining about the new changes, and managers don't like that. They don't like dealing with stress kind of induced activities. Sometimes they just lack the capacity. This new thing is beyond them. They're not used to them. It's not their natural place in the pecking order and all of that, and so they shy back from it, maybe by a lot. And again, their judgment might be impaired, or so often there's unexpected external factors that can play a huge role. And unexpected factors happens a lot. When you start making changes, you may think you know the results of those changes, but ask any congressman who's tried to pass a law to influence behavior in society, and you'll find out there's many times there's unintended consequences that go with those changes. So in the organizational change roles, when we talk about initiating change, we'll talk about these different type of roles. We have change initiators. These are the champions that make things happen. The change implementers. These are the doers that get out there and make it happen. The change facilitators. They're kind of on the outside looking in, giving advice on how to make things happen. And then there's the change recipients. So these are all the rank and file people that are middle managers that got to make this change happen and live with the results of it. So again, more on that later. Formal change leaders, right, that lead change, right, we're going to have a little bit of leadership in here because that's what it takes to make a change happen, right? And so we have formal change leaders, those people put in charge of change, but we also have informal leaders, right, those that people just kind of listen to. Nobody put them in charge of anything, but they carry a lot of respect, and if you can get them on your side, maybe you're pretty far down the road in terms of winning the battle for this thing. So what's required of a successful change leader? Keen insight into the external environment, right, is certainly part of it. So understanding what goes on outside of your organization, paying attention, learning about it so you can react to it, understanding the organizational systems at your work, so understanding what goes on inside your workplace. So what are the communication nodes? Who networks with who? How do decisions get made? How does communication get disseminated? How does data get entered into the discussion, right? Understanding how those things work certainly help successful change leaders. Often they have excellent analytic, interpersonal, and communication skills, and that goes with a lot of jobs, not just change leader, but those interpersonal communication skills can carry you a long way. And then at the end, you got to have a driving passion for this, right? You're patient and persistent. You just keep working it, and you don't stop at the first sign of trouble, because there will be trouble. So what else is required? A tolerance for ambiguity and risk-taking, right? We know organizational change is risky, and so you have to understand that going in. Emotional maturity, you're going to get pushback from people, and you got to calmly and effectively deal with this. Self-confidence and optimism, you're going to have setbacks, not if, but when. And when you have those setbacks, you got to have this self-confidence to say, okay, anybody could have had this problem. I'm still the right person for the job I'm going to go on for, and I'm optimistic about our chances. Honest and trustworthy, that certainly goes with lots of leadership profiles, inspires confidence in others. Inspirational leadership, getting people to think they can do it, is all part of it. Deep understanding of themselves, like emotional intelligence. We'll touch on that later in here, how you understand your own and control your own emotions, and it helps you deal better with others around you. Right? And certainly a curiosity and a strong desire to learn, because you won't know enough at the beginning of this thing to be successful. You'll have to learn things along the way. Right? So they have to embrace some paradoxes here, like change leaders sometimes drive change from the front, while sometimes they empower others, or they get others to stay out of the way. They recognize resistance could be a change, could be a problem and an opportunity. Sometimes you want people to challenge you so that so you can prove your case, and then everybody says, oh, okay, I guess they do know what they're talking about. Understand there's a tension between getting on with it and reassessing. You have to understand when you have to forge on and when you should stop and think about how you're doing this. So patience and impatience. Are you having too much patience with these people? Should they get on with it, or are you being impatient? Right? And certainly recognize the absolute rate of learning is less important than the relative rate of learning. So can you move from here to here? Not how much did we know, but did we learn the right things, and are we moving forward? So in summary, we see, right, often the need for change originates from the external environment, and why wouldn't that be the case, particularly when the external environment keeps changing? These changes upset the internal equilibrium in the organization, and so they're often resisted, but they're often necessary for survival. And people can play many different roles in this change, and again, we're going to talk about those more in this class, right? And how the people play these roles make a significant difference in whether the change is successful, and which means is the organization is successful. So that's a quick rundown of Chapter 1. Feel free to consult your book for further details on these topics, and we're going to kind of get into more detail very quickly here as we jump into Chapter 2. See you in a little bit.